Hi there, welcome to the Science of Seashells. This is Cup of Science, but rather than a cup today, I have a basket. Do you have a collection at home? Lots of scientists like to collect things. This is part of my seashell collection. I bet you collect something at home, maybe Legos or stuffed animals. Well, my collection today is seashells. Our first story is called Seashells by the Seashore, and this is a story by Marianne Burks. I'd like to thank the publisher, Dawn Publications. It's about a little girl named Sue. Sue walks along the seashore, warm by the sun, picking up seashells one by one. Here's a pretty periwinkle, what a work of art. Let's find some more shells. We're off to a great start. So I have a periwinkle shell too. Do you notice how a periwinkle shell has these rounded ridges and the opening is in the back? So that's number one. Seashells tumble from the ocean blue. Find a tiny kitten's paw so Sue can have two. Now this little seashell is called a kitten paw. I think because it kind of looks like a cat's paw. So it's not very big and it looks different than the periwinkle. It looks more like a little bowl. Once creatures lived in these shells from the sea. Here's a fragile jingle shell. Now there are three. The jingle shell is very shiny and it looks like a circle almost. 1, 2, 3. When the animals die, the shells wash up to shore. A smooth and empty olive shell will bring us up to 4. Here's my olive shell. It does kind of look like an olive, kind of a long olive. So remember, creatures once lived in these shells. These are kind of like their bones, huh? They have their bones on the outside. We're getting good at shelling. No time to swim or dive. A scallop has a fan shape, and that brings us up to 5. Here is my scallop shell. It does have a fan shape, doesn't it? So many seashells that we can mix. If we find a whelk shell, that will be 6. This is my whelk shell. It has stripes and a large opening for this creature. How the seashells glisten in the sun that shines from heaven. Here's a bumpy oyster shell. That makes 7. Here is the oyster shell. Lots of people eat the oyster that was inside. Inside the oyster shell, it's kind of shiny, isn't it? The tide is rolling in and it's getting pretty late. This shell looks like a slipper. Now we have 8. Here's my slipper shell. When I turn it over, the opening is in the back too. It kind of looks like a doll's slipper, doesn't it? That's a slipper shell. We're scouring through the beach sand. Lots of shells are fine. We want to find a moon shell to bring us up to 9. Here's my moon shell. It does look like a moon, doesn't it? We've got some really awesome shells, Sue tells her brother Ben. He's found a spiny pen shell, so now there are 10. My pen shell looks like this. Yeah, it's a little bigger than that oyster shell. Do you think she'll like them? Ben asked Sue. Grandma walked this beach, Ben, just like me and you. She loved to look for different shells of every shape and size, and these treasures that we found will be a great surprise. I've got one too, says Ben's friend Evan. He adds a heavy ark shell, and that makes 11. Now my ark shell isn't very big. This is my little ark shell. They'll scrub the seashell sculptures to put on Grandma's shelves. Let's find a cockle shell, so there will be 12. I love cockle shells. This is my cockle shell. "12 seashell treasures are in Sue's pail. But wait, what's this? A slimy sea snail. That's the mollusk inside, alive as it can be. We need to take him back down to his home in the sea." Evan takes the whelk shell down to the shore. The creature living deep inside will crawl around once more. So if you're at the beach and you find a shell that has a creature living inside, you want to take it back to the ocean, right? Only take the shells that are empty. Happy birthday, Grandma, and many, many more. We have a special gift for you, seashells from the seashore. That's a nice surprise for their grandma. So I have 12 shells here, and you notice they're all different shapes and sizes. We're going to sort these again in another way. That story had 12 seashells in it. My collection has a lot more than 12, but I like to sort them into types of shells. Did you know we can sort my shells into 2 different groups? The first group I'm going to call univalves. A univalve shell is like this periwinkle shell. It was always just one shell. The creature lived inside and grew bigger and bigger, but it was still just one shell. Can you think of another word that begins with una? Unicycle? Sure, unicycle has one wheel. What about unicorn? A unicorn has one horn. So when you hear una, think of the number 1. Univalve is one shell. Now, a bivalve shell was once 2 shells. Bi means 2. So what about a bicycle? A bicycle, not a unicycle, but a bicycle has 2 wheels. This shell, this was my ark shell, was once 2 shells. The other half of the shell had a little hinge, and it would open and close, kind of like a clam shell. And when the animal died, the shells separated, and I just found one half on one beach, and then this one I found on another beach. But they're bivalves. You'll notice that many bivalves look like little bowls like that, because they were once attached. So what about my moon shell? Was it a univalve or a bivalve? Did it once have 2 shells, or was it always one? Sure, it was always just one shell that just grew bigger and bigger. Looking at the stripes, we can tell. So univalve is 1. How about my scallop shell? Sure, this looks like a little bowl and the hinge was here. Just like that clam shell, it would open and close when the creature was inside. So that is a bivalve. How about my olive shell? Was my olive shell always one univalve, or did it have another shell like a bivalve? Univalve, very good. Whelk. This was my whelk shell. It has those growth stripes here. This is where the creature lived. It was always one. This is a univalve. How about my little kitten paw? Yes, it has a little bowl inside, and the other half, I have another little tiny kitten paw, but it once opened and closed. So those are bivalves. Last one. Ready for the last one? This is an oyster shell. Was an oyster shell always one, or did it have another half at one time? It sure did. It had another half, and the hinge came off, and now it's just one. Even though it was two at one time, it's a bivalve. Thanks for sorting my shells with me. Have you ever built a sandcastle at the beach? I have 5 sandcastles here, and I'd like you to use your fingers as 5 sandcastles too. Are you ready to do a finger play with me? When I say whoosh, I want you to use your fingers and make a wave, rolling in and wash the sandcastle away. Here we go. 5 little sandcastles built near the shore. Whoosh went the wave, and then there were 4. 4 little sandcastles sitting by the sea. Along came a wave, and whoosh, there were 3. 3 little sandcastles by the ocean blue. Along came a wave, whoosh, and then there were 2. 2 little sandcastles sitting in the sun. Along came a wave, ready? Whoosh! There was 1. 1 little sandcastle had lots of fun. You ready? Whoosh went a wave, and then there were none. The next time you're at the beach, I'd like to see you build a sandcastle. Well, besides making sandcastles at the beach, we could do another sorting activity. This time, I brought 2 different plates, and we're going to sort some items that you find at the beach. The first plate, we're going to put items that nature brought to the beach. We're going to call these items that are indigenous. Indigenous means nature brought them there. And things that people brought are not indigenous. So what about my sunglasses? You find sunglasses at the beach. Did nature bring them or people? Sure, that was easy. People brought the sunglasses to the beach. What about my stick? Nature or people? Nature did, but look at this stick. It's nice and smooth. It's smooth because the water rubbed up against it. We call that erosion. We'll talk more about erosion in a minute. So nature brought the stick, people brought the sunglasses. What about my sun hat? You have to wear a sun hat at the beach. Did nature bring it there or did people? People, too easy. People brought the sun hat to the beach. What about an old spoon? Yep, this is litter. When you see litter on the beach, you need to pick it up and put it in the garbage or the recycling. So people brought the litter. What about sunscreen? Sure, you need sunscreen at the beach to protect your skin. People brought the sunscreen. So all of these things are not indigenous. What about my seashells? Did nature bring them or people? Sure, nature did. Nature brought the seashells too. What about my old rocks? I found some pebbles at the beach. Nature or people? You're right. Those are from the nature. I have an old piece of driftwood here. Was it from nature or people? Sure, nature brought the driftwood as well. Driftwood is when the bark comes off, just like this stick, the water eroded it. And did you know if these rocks were left on the beach for a long time, they would also erode? That means to wear down. And those rocks would wear down like this sand. Sand is made by nature and erosion. That's indigenous to the beach too. So the sand are tiny little pieces of rock that's been eroded. Some beaches are made of eroded seashells. Those beaches are nice and white. Look at these two shells. One has been eroded already. All the bumps are nice and smooth. So this one's probably been at the beach longer than this one, huh? So nature brings things that are indigenous to the beach, and people bring things. What about this? Did nature bring this or people? You're right, people brought the litter. We have to clean up after ourselves, right? What about this? People or nature? You're right, people bring the toys to the beach. I'm going to try to trick you now. I have a collection of sea glass. My sea glass is beautiful. Have you ever gone for a sea glass collection? Picked up some shiny and smooth sea glass from the beach? Did nature bring it or did people? Well, if you said people, you're right. Nature eroded it with the wind and the waves, but people brought the glass and it broke. Shouldn't have glass at the beach, right? And then the sand and the waves made it nice and smooth. So people brought the sea glass. The next time you're at the beach, pick up some of that litter and think about things that nature brought are indigenous and take home the things that people brought. Thanks for joining me for Cup of Science today. Enjoy your summer days. Bye-bye.